Not only is the baby more than likely going to have some medical issues, but as far as being raised, like, you're having such a manipulative and attention-seeking person, a narcissist, to be your mother. I feel like psychologically this baby is probably going to be messed up.
Because you see, in my opinion, Gypsy Rose wasn't traumatized. Gypsy Rose wasn't abused like she states she was. There is no proof that Gypsy Rose was physically abused by her mother.
Well, this is the thing, okay? So for all these years, we've been told this story of just massive abuse. She didn't need any of the things that were done to her. She has no long-lasting effects, all of that, correct?
Right.
That's a lie. That's all a lie.
Many are saying that she is a master manipulator who only is concerned with fame, and that's why she only follows a handful of social media accounts, and they're all media outlets like TMZ and things like that.
This guy just felt so bad for Gypsy Rose that he was prepared to kill the mum to put her out of this misery. And she ended up marrying him. And so she said, Ryan, don't listen to the haters. I love you. You love me. Besides, they're jealous because you are rocking my world every night. Yeah, I said it. The D is on fire.
That whole story just makes me feel like I need to have a shower or something.
The baby is going to have to explain who her mother is. And I honestly... People at school, kids at school are ruthless. I'm not thinking that that's going to go over easy in a few years.
Oh, honey, buckle up, because this tea about Gypsy Rose Blanchard is piping hot. And honestly, it's chilling. The internet has been in an uproar ever since whispers started circulating about Gypsy's very questionable plans for her future and her unsettling past. And now, with a baby reportedly on the way, people are saying, bless that child, because this is a recipe for disaster.
Not only is this baby gonna have medical issues, be stuck in the limelight, and honestly be emotionally manipulated by her parents, but she's probably gonna be bullied at school. I am not religious, but if you are religious, spiritual, anything like that, send some good vibes and blessings towards this baby. Somebody bless this child, because this child is gonna need all the help it can get. Good luck, Aurora.
Let's not forget Gypsy's history. Her infamous role in orchestrating her mother Dee Dee's gruesome murder, and then spinning a tragic victim narrative to gain public sympathy. While there's no denying she lived in a toxic and abusive environment, the layers of manipulation and darkness that have come to light since her release are enough to make anyone side-eye her intentions. Now, here's where things take a turn that feels like a horror movie script. During her time in prison, Gypsy wasn't exactly tight-lipped about her thoughts, and yikes, those thoughts were dark. According to former cellmates, she didn't just casually mention her crime, she allegedly bragged about it. One cellmate, Amanda Floor, described her as creepy and smart. And let me tell you, when someone describes another person with those two words together, that's a major red flag. Amanda spilled that Gypsy openly admitted to plotting her mother's death for 2 years. 2 years! And as if that wasn't unsettling enough, she apparently fantasized about different methods: stabbing, strangling, poisoning, and even more drawn-out methods. Like, who just casually lists off ways to kill someone in conversation? Gypsy did, according to Amanda.
He also says she wasn't intending to kill her, but who grabs a gun, pulls the trigger a bunch of times, not trying to kill somebody? This also coincidentally happened right after one of their very heated arguments. Is there more manipulation here than on the surface? Something that also kind of feels weird is that in the whole slew of interviews she's been doing in the past week or so, anytime she's asked directly about her involvement with convincing her ex to murder her mother and all those things, she quickly shuts it down, or her PR team does, and she just says, I can't talk about that, I'm focusing on my healing, I'm not the murderer.
Oh, and it gets worse. Investigators found that Gypsy had watched a video titled How to Kill a Handcuffed Girl by Tasting Her. Yep, that's not a typo. The title alone is deeply disturbing, but the specifics? Girl, no. This wasn't some random true crime curiosity. It was targeted, calculated, and beyond creepy.
Receipt numero uno, the kind of videos she watched in her free time. Let's take a look at that computer. If you're curious, after she watched this, she went and purchased the items. And when I told you guys that she was into... This right here has layers to it, so let's go ahead and peel back this onion and try not to cry. So we have to understand two main things here, okay? One is that we all know is between family members, right? And two, every bit of this was her plan. She's admitted that countless times. In the courtroom, in interviews, and on TikTok.
Now, And before anyone jumps to her defense with, oh, she was in an abusive situation, maybe this was her way of coping, let's look at the bigger picture. This wasn't a one-time thing. Between the fantasies, the casual way she talked about violence, and the deliberate content she consumed online, it paints a much darker, more complex picture of who Gypsy really is. Now, fast forward to her plans of becoming a mother, because yes, that's happening, and if you're already clutching your pearls, you're not alone. In the documentary Gypsy's Confessions, she admitted that she and Nick Godejohn, her co-conspirator, in Dee Dee's murder, had talked about having a child. But this wasn't your typical white picket fence dream. Their conversations about raising a daughter reportedly had some very disturbing undertones, enough to make anyone's stomach turn. So now, with Gypsy expecting a child with her current husband, people are worried. And rightly so. Critics are saying, what kind of life is this baby walking into? Between the intense public scrutiny, Gypsy's past, and the emotional manipulation she's known for, this child is already being labeled a victim before they're even born. Some are even predicting bullying and emotional trauma, given Gypsy's infamous history and inability to stay out of the spotlight. The online world has been sending all the good vibes and prayers for this baby, with one person bluntly putting it, someone bless Aurora, because this child is going to need all the help they can get. And honestly, that's the consensus right now. So, where does this leave us? With Gypsy's past still haunting her, and her unsettling behavior continuing to raise eyebrows, people are left wondering if she's truly moved on, or if the darkness is still lurking, waiting to resurface. This story is far from over, and let's be real, we're all watching to see what happens next. Oh, this story just keeps getting darker and darker. So apparently, Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her then-boyfriend Nick Godejohn had some disturbing plans for their hypothetical child, according to recovered texts in a documentary. Get this, they allegedly talked about how, if they had a daughter, once she turned 13, Gypsy would hand her over to Nick to turn her into a woman. Yep, you read that right.
And this right here, somewhere in this area, is her telling her cellmate in county all about what was going to happen to their daughter together, and then crying about how much she missed Nick. But of course the cellmate could have been lying. Let's listen to her say it.
If we would have a daughter, that upon her 13th birthday, he would take her virginity.
And before somebody tells me that I'm taking that out of context and she actually broke up with him over that, let's talk about the context. The context is that was the plan early on in their relationship, and although she said she broke up with him for it, obviously they didn't.
We're talking about grooming, not parenting. Gypsy has since tried to distance herself from these plans, claiming it was all Nick's idea, but let's be real, she was very involved in these discussions. In fact, she's the one who even brought up the idea of getting pregnant in the first place. And despite saying she was uncomfortable, she stayed with him. They didn't break up. They didn't go their separate ways. She stuck around until the police caught them. If she was so against it, why stay, right? And it's not just Nick's word. A former cellmate of Gypsy's, Michaela Lewis, backed up these disturbing claims. She said that Gypsy openly discussed their dream daughter and what kind of future they wanted for her. Spoiler, it wasn't a future any sane person would wish on a child. It's one thing to think up twisted ideas in your head, but to talk about them freely? That's when it gets really unsettling.
Because Aurora was the name that Gypsy chose for her imaginary daughter that she told Nicholas Godejohn she was pregnant with. The same daughter that she told Nicholas he could have his way with when I think she turned 13. That is why the public is so concerned with why Gypsy would name her daughter Aurora, or why Ken would allow his daughter's name to be Aurora.
Now, when you zoom out and look at Gypsy's life, this whole situation starts to look like a repeating cycle. She grew up in a toxic environment. where her mother, Dee Blanchard, allegedly used abuse and medical manipulation to gain sympathy. And now, Gypsy's about to become a mother herself. People are starting to ask, has she truly broken free from those unhealthy cycles? Or is history just waiting to repeat itself, this time with her child as the victim?
I think the same thing about Gypsy Rose today that I thought about her when I made a couple videos that went viral before she got released for prison. At that time, I had the unpopular opinion that she was cognitively capable of more than we thought that she was. I felt like she was manipulative, she was intentional, she was calculated. Godejan was her first victim, in my opinion, her mom being her second victim, and her third victim was Ryan Anderson. America went and made her a celebrity overnight, like Twista said back in the day, and for the love of God, can she please get a PR team because she is a hot mess on social media. Or maybe that is her PR strategy, because you know we love a hot mess.
But wait, the plot thickens. For years, Gypsy has claimed that her mother subjected her to medical abuse, making her fake illnesses and use a wheelchair to gain attention. This narrative gained traction, and a lot of people bought into it. But here's where things get murky. There's no official diagnosis of Munchausen by proxy for Dee, and there's no conclusive evidence that she was suffering from any mental illness at all. And get this, Gypsy still experiences some of the same symptoms that her mother supposedly faked. So if Dee was pretending, how does Gypsy still have these issues today? Yeah, that's a question that deserves some serious attention.
I just don't really see remorse in her eyes, almost like a sociopath, if you say. It's almost like she's saying sorry just because she knows that's what she's supposed to say, but there's no true remorse in it. No shred of anxiety or, PTSD and nightmares, nothing, just normal. That's off-putting to me.
Let's not forget that Dee wasn't some neglectful parent. She worked hard to provide for Gypsy, taking her to Disney World, organizing events, and making sure she had medical care. Those don't sound like the actions of someone neglecting their child. Yet, in the end, Gypsy turned on her mother in the most horrific way possible, orchestrating her murder. Over the course of 2 years, Gypsy carefully planned and plotted the most tragic betrayal imaginable. And now, with her becoming a mother herself, people are seriously questioning whether she's learned anything from the past. Okay, buckle up, because this one is wild. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is back in the spotlight, and let's just say her behavior since getting out of prison has raised some serious red flags. So remember how she orchestrated her mother's death, convincing her then-boyfriend Nicholas Godejan to carry out the crime? It wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. This was cold, calculated, and planned. And sure, Gypsy claims she was pushed to the edge by years of abuse, but let's not forget, Dee Blanchard isn't here to defend herself. We only have Gypsy's side of the story, a side crafted to make her look like the victim and reduce her sentence. Convenient, right?
There is no proof that Gypsy Rose was physically abused by her mother. There is no proof of this so-called medical abuse that she states that she endured. The only thing she has is her story. And what is it you say? She has paid her debt to society? Has she really? She groomed a vulnerable man for 2 years into killing her mother. In fact, she took the lives of 2 people because Nicholas Godejan will be in prison for life.
Fast forward to now, and Gypsy is out of prison, married, and expecting her first child. But instead of focusing on building a healthy, stable life, her recent behavior has made people question whether she's truly left her dark past behind. She recently posted a bizarre, overly sexualized message on social media, defending her husband, Ryan. She said something about the D being fire and how people are just jealous. While standing up for your partner is fine, the tone and content of that post just didn't sit well with many. Is this really the kind of person who should be preparing to be a responsible parent? But wait, there's more! Gypsy has been trying to reconnect with Nick Godejan, the man who helped her kill her mother. Sources say she's reached out through mutual friends and even his uncle. Why would she want to rekindle any kind of relationship with someone involved in such a horrific crime? It's definitely raising some serious concerns about her judgment.
There are currently people serving time in incarceration, and there are people who will be incarcerated for non-violent crimes that'll serve more time than Gypsy Rose for the premeditated planning of her mother's unaliving, and that is wild to me. And Gypsy Rose clearly understood that she was an adult and she could clearly run away, and she chose not to do that. She chose to permanently give her mom a vacation.
And now, the baby. Gypsy's about to become a mom, but given her history, many are wondering if she's capable of providing a safe and stable environment. Here's where things get even more unsettling. She named her baby Aurora. If that sounds familiar, it's because that's the name she and Nick had planned to give their hypothetical daughter, the one they wanted to groom for unspeakable purposes. It's like she's calling back to that dark time in her life, and it feels chilling. On top of that, Gypsy posted an AI-generated image of what she thinks her daughter might look like, and the heavily edited features freaked people out. It's just another example of her questionable choices and lack of awareness.
So Gypsy shared a first glimpse ultrasound picture, which is a digitally enhanced, ultra-clear picture of your baby in an ultrasound. And I'm so confused right now because I thought she wasn't going to share her baby online. This whole pregnancy thing, the whole thing, I just don't know what to think. I don't know if this is in fact true or part of the GRIFT, who knows? But y'all, all I know is it gets stranger every day.
At this point, it's clear that Gypsy isn't the innocent victim she tries to paint herself as. She orchestrated her mother's death, manipulated the public's opinion, and continues to make decisions that raise huge concerns about her character. With a baby on the way, it's more important than ever to make sure her past doesn't negatively affect her child's future. People are wondering if authorities need to step in and monitor her parenting. This isn't about punishing her, it's about protecting an innocent child. So, what do you think? Has Gypsy really changed, or are these red flags too serious to ignore? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.